welcome to week 3 here of the NFL season for the Pittsburgh Steelers as they'll take on an annoying rival, which has been going on back and forth for the last 15 years. I'm talking about none other than the LA Chargers uh, right now. Tomorrow at noon will be the game kickoff as the Steelers will look to get to where they haven't been in 4 years, a 3-0 start, believe it or not. I mean, this season, I think defensively has similarities so far as we'll be looking at it. But for tomorrow's game, as we're looking for it, should be an interesting one at Acrisure Stadium for the Steelers. Just trying to maintain some ground right now as we take a look at the current standings in the AFC North. Currently, they in the AFC North division. I mean, thanks in large help to their division struggling. Yet the who would have thought the Ravens and Bengals after 2 weeks, only after 2 weeks, are have not gotten on the board yet with a win. But the Steelers do maintain a one-game lead over the Browns right now, who come in second after defeating the Jacksonville Jaguars a week ago in Jacksonville. And each of them and the Browns are 1-0, and going to be some real interesting times right now. I mean, the Ravens looking desperately get on the board with a win, but for right now, let's see what the Steelers could do tomorrow matchup as we look at it for this game day Sunday between these two matches right there. We all know what happened last time when the Steelers took on the LA Chargers. They took on Justin Herbert in his second year as a starter in his NFL career, as we saw them pretty much get blown out in that game for a majority of that matchup right there. You saw the Steelers at one point trailing the Chargers. That was Ben Roethlisberger's final season. They were down at one point big in that game. As we look at it, it was a 17-point lead. Started off ugly for them. I mean, still, it's just score points on the board first in that game, going up 3-zip in the opening first quarter. But then you would see the Chargers methodically throughout that first half, in particular, outscore the Steelers 17-10, and pretty much it blew up right there. I mean, the Steelers did somehow manage to take the lead late in the fourth quarter with a little over 3 minutes to go, but they did end up botching that one right there. It almost cost the Steelers the playoffs that season, and which we all remember. Raiders helped bail them out, where they could each eventually ended their game in a tie, which would have kept the Steelers out, and the Chargers and Raiders would have been in the playoffs. Chargers would have been in over the Steelers. But as we looked at it right there in that foul game, right there, you saw how that game ended. The Steelers came back and took the lead. Basically, I mean, it was just really a tough pill to swallow, to say the least. I mean, if you think about it, and you saw the Steelers, which we will have thought will have been the go-ahead score for good, the way they came back. Of course, the field goals, nothing's been promised, but when you look at it right there, I mean, for the most part, I mean, they were on the 39-yard drive, and where it ended with Boswell hitting a 45-yard field goal. They would be up with 3:29 left to go, and then the Chargers, who actually got the ball back, basically uh, for the most part, had a 50-yard drive right there, which resulted in a pass from Herbert to Mike Williams for 53 yards from the Chargers' 47-yard line. They would go on to win that game 41-37 in that game. I mean, of course, the Steelers, I mean, really did not look all that great. I mean that matchup right there. I mean, they would definitely go on to get blown out by the Bengals a week later, 41-10, and then only to have a close game, a 1 point win they would hold on to against the Ravens, and then nearly get blown out versus the Vikings. I mean, 36-28, where you saw that game. They were down as many by 29 points, 29 to zip. They didn't get their first points to the end of, near the end of the third quarter and came with almost a Ben Roethlisberger strike uh, to lose that game. That was his Claypool game. But anyway, back to the Chargers game right there. I mean, we all saw what Justin Herbert did in that game right there. He definitely sliced the Steelers up in that matchup. I mean, you saw in that game right there. I mean, Justin Herbert doing a real good job completing 30 of his 41 passing attempts, 382 yards, three touchdowns with only one pick. Where you look at Ben Roethlisberger, on the other hand, in that game, he completed 28 of 44 passes for 273 yards, three touchdowns. Managed to take care of the football in that game. But here we are right now. And also, too, I mean, Jim Harbaugh right now, he's going to go his second head-to-head matchup versus Mike Tomlin. We all know how that one ended up as well, too, when he visited the 49ers on Monday Night Football back 13 years ago when he was the coach of the 49ers. They would go on to lose that game by 17 points, 20-3 right there. And that game did start off a little bit late, but anyway, this is what it's come down to right now. Let's see if Mike Tomlin could get the revenge tour continued right now. He earned his first victory over Sean Payton after going 0 for 3. Now he'll be looking to do similarly with Jim Harbaugh, who finds himself back in the NFL after a 10-year absence. I mean, finally, who goes on to coach the Michigan Wolverines, struggling for a long time versus OSU, but they finally managed to beat them the last three seasons, and last year take his team to a thrilling college football playoff run, and where they would have a classic showdown against Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide in overtime right there. Then go on to win their college football national championship. Jim Harbaugh's first ever championship in his football career, especially as a head coach on the collegiate level. He's now looking to become the fourth coach to win not only a college football championship, but a Super Bowl. Previous ones who did, Jimmy Johnson, the Dallas Cowboys was the very first one who did with the Miami Hurricanes, of course, the Dallas Cowboys. And then you had Barry Switzer who came in. I think it was did with the Oklahoma right there. Anyway, he did it in 1995. 2 years after they won their second Super Bowl, they failed to three-peat in Barry Switzer's first year after the ousting of Jimmy Johnson. And then you had Pete Carroll with the Seattle Seahawks win the national championship back to back, by the way, in 03, 04. The 03 one being a shared title with LSU Tigers, then winning it for the second straight time in 2004. He wanted to win the Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks. Nearly came close to winning back to back titles, which would be our first right there. He could have became the first coach to win not only back to back college football championships, but back-to-back Super Bowls as well. Jimmy Johnson was one guy who did not say that, but here we are right now. Jim Harbaugh, who's last coach in the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 48, coming up short against his brother, John Harbaugh. Now, as we get ready to look at it for right now, uh, it's going to definitely be an interesting game right there. For the most part, so Steelers will be, like I said, they're looking to get on the board here in this victory. I mean, get to a 3-0 start, something they haven't done. Like I said, I mentioned in 2020 for the most part, but here we are right now. The game will be set for tomorrow as we look at it for this team going into this matchup right now. And definitely gonna be having a dubious task right now. for this game, as this game will definitely be televised on CBS. We'll be seeing Jim Nance and Tony Romo will be having the call for this one to be a new kickoff game tomorrow, like I mentioned. But anyway, let's go and get into some of the opening topics right here. As mentioned earlier in the week, Jerry Dulac also knows on Wednesday, Steelers. It's been 25 years where they opened up the season with back-to-back road victories, and that's where they destroyed the Cleveland Browns. Their return game, I believe that was 43 to zip right there. After having a 3-year absence, when most of their roster and personnel moved over to Baltimore. Browns would have a 3-year hiatus before they return back as an expansion franchise, keeping their trademark with the Browns. And then, but they would go on to miss the playoffs that year, so not really all that fruitful. It was the second straight year of three straight eventual playoff misses for Bill Cowher. Then they would finish off the 1999 season 6-10. After the prior year, I think they finished off 7-9. But Justin Fields right now, you gotta give him credit right now. He's never been a 2-0 starter until now. And Mike Thomas said he will keep the same plan as last week with Justin Fields, Russ Wilson, which means Russell not scheduled to practice or even rest of the week. The plan is for him not to play versus the Chargers. And that is going to be right now. I mean, I mean, right now it's still Burks is still out on Justin Fields, of course, right now. And Mike Tomlin is, of course, refusing to acknowledge a starter. But I mean, he did say pretty much all along that Russell is in pole position. But you got to start to wonder right now as this season continues to loom larger. If they somehow manage to go 3-0 right now, now they've only scored one touchdown this entire year. Uh, and then, and that's where they got to really like start to dig deep right now. I believe that was off 19 drives. But anyway, is not really good enough right now. You have to wonder if that's going to be sustainable at all. And I mean, Chris Boswell. I mean, right now you got to argue. Right now, he's definitely one of their team MVPs. I mean, of course, he took the WAP. I mean, still, I mean, nailing all of his field goals for the year for this season. I mean, and having a second career high means definitely having a good year for the Steelers, going perfect so far, going 8 of 8, pretty much. I mean, which has definitely been huge right now. I mean, so 24 of their 31, I mean, points. I mean, which is incredible here. And I mean, he'll still have his of course usual misses, but still, he's still a reminder of what he still brings to the team right now for this matchup. I mean, 18 of 24 this season's points right there. That is a huge chunk of their scoring. But I mean, like I said, you gotta like the rhythm right now. What Arthur Smith is doing with this team. But I mean, at the same time, I really gotta believe the more they continue to have lack of finishing drives in the end zone or lack of touchdowns. I mean, you gotta believe at some point there's gonna be patience all lost with Justin Fields. You may have to switch up to Russell Wilson. I mean, really can't say for the most part here. But I mean, you definitely gotta be thinking right now. I mean, what are the players in this locker room continue to feel as it goes on? I mean, 10 drives in the first one, and then of course 9 in the second one versus Denver Broncos, which by the way they haven't beaten them in 15 years. I mean, I thought it was very impressive. Should have been a shutout in that game. I mean, they definitely got caught napping at the wheel. Excuse me, it was 21 drives in total, but yeah, I mean, a lot of underneath routes in that game were kind of played them. I would love to see them have their first shutout in 13 years, but I mean, it was not meant to be in that game, but still had dominating, I mean, performance defensively. I mean, the second half, I mean, just the only part that really just stung, could not convert any third downs in that game. I mean, which really kind of kept the door a little close. I mean, you saw a key pick in the end zone in that game. I mean, versus the Broncos right there in that moment. But yeah, I mean, it was just definitely like a day right there. I think Sean Payton definitely have another frustrating day at the office right now as he continues to try and work things, force his way with the Broncos. But that's how the game bounces. Any given Sunday right there, and the Steelers find a way to keep themselves in good standing for right now for the moment. Now, also too, offensive line right now. Robert Jones right now, the player that moved up to draft with the 14th overall pick in 2023, has a chance to bounce back from his performance in Denver when he was yanked from the game as committing three penalties a span of 6 plays. He is tied with two other teammates, wide receiver Van Jefferson and outside linebacker on the right side, Alex Highsmith, with three penalties for this season. I mean, we talk about the penalties right now. I mean, Broderick Jones, who's most of his penalties have come from holding calls right there, and then he's also got a false start. I mean, which has been like the most hiccup. I mean, the second like offensive lineman on this list, I mean, who's been doing real good for Isaac Seumalo, who they drafted in the seventh round, Spencer Anderson. Right now, he's only got one false start penalty right now, and this is where they're at for this year. And I mean, they have definitely been a good team. I really believe they just got to really be careful of the penalties because right now, I mean, thankfully for them, winning the turnover battle, that has been the key ingredient right there. I mean, just keep it simple, taking care of the ball, and taking away the ball has put them in a good spirit right there. And speaking of which, right now, I mean, you look at, I mean, it's only 2 games so far, but the Steelers right now, they rank 10th in points off of turnovers, thanks in large part to their defense, which benefits their team. Now, the Steelers right now, I mean, they have scored 15 points altogether, including off of 4 and outs and any block returns, kick returns for touchdowns, which hasn't happened. But turnovers and 4 and outs so far, they have managed to score 15 points off of 6 turnovers in total right now. And their efficiency in that they are ranked fourth in the league, scoring 83% of the time whenever they create like a turnover or force forward out. They have scored 15 points. Now, granted, it's all field goals right there. And for me, I mean, looking at that, I mean, which I'm paying attention more obsessively is whenever you get turnovers forced on a defense, it's like scoring a power play goal in hockey. You want to make the team pay off their disadvantage by getting points scored off them. That's what you need to really do right there. So I'm telling you one thing right now: if the Steelers are not careful, I mean, with the penalties being limited, one thing that could still is danger knocking on the door is turning the ball over. Now let's get into some roster news right here. Jerry Dulac indicated earlier this morning or earlier this afternoon, excuse me, that they have placed rookie Troy Fautanu on injured reserve with a significant knee injury, and the news is not good. He is expected to miss most, if not all, of the 2024 season per sources. Troy injured his knee in practice on Friday and is being evaluated to see how extensive he will not play versus Chargers per team sources. Steelers in this game for the injury report for the Steelers and Chargers. Beginning with the Steelers, left guard Isaac Seumalo, who is still recovering from a pec injury. He'll be out, and of course, backup tight end McCoyle, Pruitt, knee, while Russell Wilson continues to remain questionable with his strained calf. But remember, the plan is not to play him for this week. Now, Isaac is expected to be back in a few weeks, while seventh round pick I just mentioned a few moments ago, Spencer Anderson of Maryland, who they drafted in 2023's draft, he's been a serviceable backup as 2-0, has only committed one false start penalty. Now, Troy Montgomery of Steelers Depot, I want to give him some credit right here, points out how the Steelers have a decent history of developing late or undrafted offensive linemen into quality players. I mean, which is something pretty solid right there. And I think the offensive line right now, I mean, is doing, I mean, it's still a little shaky at times. I think they could just, just tweak up a little bit on the sacks. I mean, they're 23rd in that category of only allowing 4 sacks. It's still not that bad. But I tell you what, this offensive line, despite the scares we saw in the preseason, they're having a nice little smooth Joe little by little. Just got to turn down the penalties right there. According to Brian Backel, too, of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Steelers are elevating backup offensive line John LeGlue and backup cornerback James Pierre for tomorrow's game versus Chargers. Need more guard and tackle depth with Troy being out and the versatile Spencer Anderson already starting for Isaac Sayamalo. Pierre likely will be a core special teamer. And we all know with Dan Smith, I mean, his specialties, what he does on special teams plays, he pick up very high calculated risk schemes right there. I gotta love his work right there. Now, Steelers have also placed linebacker Tyler Matakevich on the reserve and injured list after signing Pierre and defense back Deshaun Jameson to the practice squad and terminated quarterback Zion Gilbert and wide receiver Shaquan Davis from the practice squad. As for the Chargers right here, they'll be without some key players right here, and one of them, and they got a few questionable right here. They'll only be out one player, excuse me, backup inside linebacker Junior Colson due to a hamstring. Now, former Steeler offensive linebacker Bud Dupree, illness, quarterback Justin Herbert, ankle, uh, right wide receiver Joshua Palmer, elbow and calf, and nickel Yasir Taylor, fibula are all questionable. I mean, the biggest one is definitely to be really interesting right here. I mean, Herbert being questionable. I think that's definitely the biggest one right there because I'll tell you what, for this game tomorrow, looking at it, I think that one's definitely got to be the hugest news right there as we go pay attention to that game. I mean, they got to go back a quarterback right there. Still, I mean, not having your guy under center, but the Chargers right here, this season, they've proven to be deadly on the and lethal on the ground, just as the Steelers right now. If you look at the running comparison right now, I mean, the Chargers have a slight advantage of running the ball right now. They have outscored their opponents 395 to 161 yards on the ground, averaging over 5.5 yards per attempt off of 71 carries for a plus ratio of 234. Now, a lot of that has to do, I mean, we look at this Chargers team right here on there too. I mean, one of the big guys they have on here is, of course, J.K. Dobbins, formerly of the Ravens. And of course, Gus Edwards right there. Dobbins right here, I mean, for the most part, he's got 266 yards, averaging nearly 10 yards per attempt. I mean, he is definitely going to be a big guy to target in this game. But still, I mean, you look at their offensive coordinator who they got on here too, Greg Roman, formerly of the Ravens. I mean, he joins John Harbaugh's brother Jim in the Chargers. Now, remember, he's been with the Ravens for the last 4 seasons, including one of Lamar Jackson's MVP years back in 2019, where they had like a season record. I mean, set for running the ball right there and rushing yards. The season did sour that year, uh, coming up short to the Tennessee Titans in the divisional round, which they had the number one seed in the AFC. And then you look at the Steelers are attacking the ground right now, doing pretty solid themselves, but they have outgained their opponents 278 to 153 yards on the ground, 125 plus ratio for them. I mean, it definitely helps so too that Najee Harris, I mean, of course, like not having his 5th-year option picked up is a contract year right now. I'm still a little bit on the fence right now. This will be a little bit different with Omar Khan running things. if he'll be the exception to the rule where they'll be able to give him a new contract. I mean, it's been a while since they'll reward their players and keeping them in the fold. As of course, you know the trend with running backs these days. I mean, pretty much you got like maybe like a 5 year window at minimum. Not too many backs last long in this league. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up right now. I mean, keys to the game for this matchup. Winning the battle up front. That'd be the first one. And what I mean by that, I mean the Steelers have had success controlling and stopping the run. Like I said, 278 to 153 yards for the Steelers, plus 125 differential ratio, averaging over 3.5 yards. Although they haven't punched one in the end zone, getting through left inside linebacker Deion Henley and edge outside linebacker Joey Bosa first, who create a lot of negative yards for tackles for loss right there. That'd be the key up front. I mean, and when you look at now, as far as stopping the run, definitely, you definitely have to go look at J.K. Dobbins. I mean, who's definitely been on a tear for only 2 games right now, averaging nearly 10 yards a game. And of course, you got Gus Edwards, too, another former Raven right there. And you look at Greg Roman, so you're expecting a run, heavy dose of run by both teams, especially from Harbaugh's side, even if they got to go without Justin Herbert in this game. So that's definitely going to be a big key right there. Now, as far as stopping the run, too, on this, I mean, you need a guy like Patrick Queen to show up right now. Former Raven right here, see if he could stop some of his former Raven mates right here. I mean, he has not been all that impressive as of yet, as he is seventh on his team in tackles with 6 total so far, 5 solo, 1 assisted. He has not created any negative yards yet. But I mean, you got Minka Fitzpatrick right now. I mean, he's a free safety, but he's coming after like almost like a strong safety the way he's laying down his share of the lumber. Leads the team in tackles with 14 total. I mean, 11 solo altogether right there. I mean, at some point too, you gotta believe in this game. I mean, he's due for a pick in this game. Now remember, he did miss the last game due COVID 3 years ago, and he had to travel to SoFi. So I mean, a key matchup right there for speaking of Mitchell Fitzpatrick, it'd be Justin Herbert should he play versus Mika Fitzpatrick. Uh, Fitz will have to, on the flip side, patrol the deep post against Herbert if he plays, who torched the Steelers for 382 yards and 3 touchdowns at 31-40 uh, completion out of his attempts. And Trey Norwood was placed in Mika's place. So if Herbert's ankle injury severely impacts his mobility, Fitzpatrick can take advantage of any mistakes from the pocket. Now, sticking with the battle up front, keep the pocket clean. Steelers are 23rd, only allowing 4 sacks, 2 per game. They'll need to do a better job being aggressive on attacking the Chargers' VIP bouncers, as their O line is first with the least sacks allowed. Look for TJ Watt to get more from his Robin and Alex Highsmith, as TJ once again leads his team in sacks, quarterback hits, and tackles for loss. Highsmith, excuse me, will need to get back to form from 2 years from his career high of 14 and a half sacks, filling in for Watt. Another matchup to watch out for: Chargers safety Derwin James versus Steelers quarterback Justin Fields. Now, Fields understood the assignment week one and didn't let Falcons safety Jesse Bates make a game changing play per Smith's request. James is another ball hawk who knows where to be and when to take advantage of a strong pass rush. There's not margin for error right now in this offense, and every turnover free game for Fields feels like it's putting him closer to his first. And also, last key for this game: Chargers outside linebacker Khalil Mack versus Steelers left ankle defensive war. Watch out for the long arm move from Mack, who's on the wrong side of 33, but still has plenty of power in his 6'3", 269-pound frame. He had 17 sacks last season, including 6 in 1 game against the Raiders, and already has 1.5 this year so far. Moore held up against Matthew Joy on week one, but Mack is his toughest tight yet to date this season. So once again, the keys for this: winning the battle up front, controlling and stopping the run, keeping the pocket clean and the pass rush, keep Justin Fields on his feet, and see if they can find a way to penetrate that Chargers number one offensive line and protecting their quarterback. And of course, you got Charger safety Derwin James versus Justin Fields, and then quarterback Justin Herbert versus Steelers safety Minka Fitzpatrick, and Chargers offensive linebacker, outside linebacker, excuse me, Khalil Mack versus left tackle of the Steelers, Dan Moore Jr. Oddshark right now has got the Steelers winning this game 23-16 right here. So we're looking at those over under for this game is looking to be about 39 points. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes a little over in this one, but I tell you what, they're without Justin Herbert. I could definitely see this being a low scoring affair right here myself. I would not be surprised. I think 39 sounds about right. I'm gonna go ahead and agree with Oddshark. But anyway, welcome back, Jim Harbaugh. Great for the NFL right now. Looking to see if he can become that fourth coach ever to win a college football championship and eventually a Super Bowl championship. Maybe not this year, but I mean, the Chargers for, I mean, their credit right now, they find themselves conveniently, I mean, in, in their positioning right now. I mean, just to even start off their season, I mean, the top of the AFC West right now, temporarily over defending back-to-back Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, the biggest difference so far, they have a divisional win, which the Chiefs have not faced yet, after beating the Raiders in the opening week in SoFi Stadium. So that's going to do it here for this edition of Showblitz, presented by the Mansfield Podcast, Steelers versus Chargers pregame. And guys can follow me on X at ManssteelCGR and on Instagram at ManssteelNation. As always, leave it. Don't be trolling. Be rolling. Here we go, series. Here we go. Icon. Thank you for watching the Mass Steel Podcast with your host, Charles Prodigy Richey, here on YouTube. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And for all the latest Mass Steel Podcast episodes, feel free to download them on Mixcloud, Anchor.fm, and SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts.